Okay. Let's see if I'm actually on Twitch. Hey everybody, can you see me? I can't see you, so I don't know. Hello? Hello? It looks like this is on and no one is paying attention, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Yeah, Tim's getting crazy in the background. Alright then. Let's get into this and figure out what's broken with Rubble. First thing to do is I need to start up a game server, so I'm gonna get a game server up and running, because I think everything I need is working great in working great on the server. Like all the debug stuff coming into the client looks good. So right now I'm just building the server and so Dev Nullicus, that's actually a really complicated question. For everything we track, kind of like initiator, like there's several things. Like every action has, what is doing it, and then like who is the initiator, and so the initiator propagates through all the various gameplay logic, and so it could be like, all right, like if I swing my sword and hit somebody, then I am the actor and the initiator. But if I if I shoot an arrow, then I am the initiator and the action is shooting the arrow, and then the arrow hits somebody, the actor is the arrow but the initiator is me. So and like everything that happens as a consequence of that keeps the same initiator. It's like so events sort of track which events spawn them, and in general, like there's a few cases where like if I say have reactive armor, then it'll swap and I do damage as a result of taking damage, then the initiator would swap to me. But in most cases the initiator just propagates through, and that is how so what would end up happening is if Rubble falls on a player and the player dies, then everyone who did damage to that building leading up to the chunk falling off would be the initiator of the chunk falling off. So that's the theory of how it should work. So now you know. Yeah, we think about this stuff. So game server is now starting up, and that's just going to be like a little dead empty zone. So yeah, that's a thing that you see a lot in games. Like we're not the inventors of it, or the the first people to do that. Like you go back to like Quake 3, and it says Rob killed Andrew with a door, and the door is the thing that killed me, but Rob's the one who caused it to hit me. Game server's starting up. This is exactly what happens when a game server starts up. If you zoom way in, you can actually see server, and the starts up kind of slow because this is a debug build. Loading up the web API stuff, starting its logging, starting the web application backend. Flip over and get my client built in case there are any things that need to be done there too. And we're just going to leave the server up the whole time because I think the server is good to go. A bunch of warnings. Bunch of warnings about skills. So Ben should probably fix those. He'll fix those. Zone is initialized. Proxy starts up and connects to the game world. And then should see a great big server online. Bing! There we are. And so that is, so now we have a working game server. I'm gonna switch over and leave that in the background all the time and just turn off cube and set my command line to start up with and connect to my local game server. Here comes the client. You can see the game server is going, hey, there's a client connecting to me. It's dark. You might get eaten by a grue. Now it's not dark. So I'm gonna be do like the most boring thing imaginable, and let's see, slash commands to make a plot. Let me fix this so I get a better view of the game. There we are. Yay, that's good. All right, so there's that, and set it to Arthurian. Take it over from me. Now it's my plot because I have the power of admin commands, and I'm going to do the simplest possible thing that I could do. So make one block, or make one column, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this thing and alright, I know how to use cube. I take one of these poles and I'm just going to delete one block, and what's going to happen is the construction queue is going to run and actually deconstruct that block, and when it does, the top of that is going to fall off as rubble. And boom, the client crashes. Yeah, the client just straight up crashed. So first thing to do is debug this stuff. So I'll flip over to the game. Let's see. Is this, yeah, get an idea of where my top and bottom of my window is. Okay. So we are crashed in here, and the first thing that I gotta look at is, okay, well, we crashed, and by the way, is the music too loud, too soft, any of that? I gotta have my tunes, but and that's real simple. The network state of the physics is empty. So why did we get an empty network state for the physics? And I'm going to guess that that is a timing issue, and if I restart the client, that won't have happened again. But I should pull up the client and say, let's see, so has building network state has physics, or sorry, not building network state, Rubble network state has physics. Yeah, so that definitely needs a true to make sure that we actually send the physics for the Rubble over. So unfortunately, that is a thing that, yeah, a lot of this is really, really sketched out. So there was Rubble code from long ago, but this is going to be the real Rubble code. But first I'm going to get... first I'm just going to make things good. So, unfortunately that means I have to restart the server, because the server is the one that's in charge of telling the client whether, you know, if the server needs to know to tell the client about the physics of the Rubble. And so, restart the server. Small rebuild, and then we'll restart that. Okay, so let's take a deeper look while the server's starting back up again. I'm going to take a deeper look at what's going on with the client. And so here's this init function, which this is how Rubble gets constructed locally in Cube. So you guys can see that there, and I'm going to just pull aside a copy of that. Visual Studio is really nice because, you know, you can just make a second copy of your window and have it overlaid there. So I'm going to be referring to that as I look at how we actually set up a chunk of Rubble when it comes over the network. So network update state does so this is not really doing even anything interesting. So at a minimum, set building cells. So we've got, just to explain what I'm doing up here, every entity gets an entity network state that initializes the entity itself. They're kind of two separate data types, and so there's three data types. There's the Rubble entity on the server, which is C#. There's the Rubble entity on the client, which is C++, and then there's this entity network state that's just like a blob of settings that all it knows how to do is copy itself from place to place, and that's where we do all our like magic network optimization. So we get in a base entity network state, and we say, yeah, turn that into a Rubble network state, and here we just need to do various initialization. So a Rubble network state, what that has on it is all of this, and the only really interesting thing it has on it is is right here, the building cells network state, and that's, you know, kind of componentized the network states. That's a thing that both the building plot entity and the Rubble, or the building plot network state and the Rubble network state both have on them, and that's just a container for that, and that's like a ridiculously complicated thing. But the main thing to care about here is Rubble state get the cells. No? Why can't we do that? Oh, right. I have to make a clone of that and see. So that's going to be a very, very lightweight thing to... And I've just completely talked my way through all of this while you had the server starting up in the background. I'm so sorry. So, let's see, Darrow, you asked, do all the projects exist within one solution? We have two main solutions that we use as part of our like day-to-day development. One is the client and the editor, and the other is the server. And what we do is, and the server one builds like this monolithic server that has like the proxies and the NPCs and the physics and all of those things built into just like one massive monolithic process. And then, you know, so just development, you can just be in Visual Studio and say go, and it starts up like a full game server in one process with one key. And then we have other solutions that are just, you know, that, you know, like the way it's set up is actually like, you know, the server-side physics is a library, and then we link that into the monolithic thing, or we can link it into a standalone physics server, and that gets us neat stuff, you know. And that way we can have just like a minimal thing or the big monolithic thing where it's really convenient to run everything on one machine. Alright, so this server's online, and I've actually set the building cells, which should be nice. Let's, I'm just going to set a breakpoint here in you actually see that, where I set my breakpoint. No, you cannot. There, now you can actually see my breakpoint. So I set a breakpoint in network init, which is where we come in, and we will see, try and connect this client again. So the way we kind of the way we kind of do things is like the physics state actually comes from the physics server. So probably the reason that crashed before was that the Rubble server did not know you know, where things like, you know, the proxy server had gotten the Rubble chunk before the physics server had said this is where it is, and because I hadn't set has physics to true, it was just sending that over, and the client couldn't cope with that. And now the client can cope with that. So here we are once again on a clean server. Make a new plot. And, alright, make a new plot, set the faction to Arthurian, take over the plot. It's like a full magic incantation. And then go into building mode, build a thing, finish the construction queue. And then so then just delete that and finish the construction queue again. And we just got a Rubble entity over here on the client. So this time around, we do have an entity state and we have a physics state both. So that will work. And I'm going to ignore that error for now, and let's just go back to the client. And that actually worked. So you go out of building mode, like there's the block that I deleted and it fell down. So this might have been a super simple fix. Let's go back into building mode again. And build something where the Rubble should be really obvious. Alright, so now I'm just going to delete this block and maybe this will all fall off. And the cool thing is this is client to server connected, so wow, it works! So yeah, that was networked. That was cool. Although, yeah, I don't think we have them synced exactly between the client and the server. But the server generated a, you know, unlike the stuff I was doing in Cube, the server generated a Rubble chunk and then sent it down to the client, and it fell off, like it should. Oops. Oh, God. Oh my God, I got so excited. So this is the Rubble chunk that fell off. Let's do that again. Yeah, we'll rerun that because that was like moment of truth. So I'm just building something where it'll be really obvious when things fall off. Force the construction queue to, well, okay, it did before. And yeah, so I'm going to delete this block. And boom, it just falls off, doing all the things that that it should. So the cool thing is now I could start up a second client if I wanted and see that happen. And we got a little bit of physics going on there too. Maybe not the physics we want, but it's the physics we deserve considering how little time I've spent on the interaction between characters and Rubbles right now. So I'm gonna clean up a couple of these assertions now. And to do that, I'm gonna have to restart the client. And the client is going to probably throw a bunch of assertions, and we will start to see stuff. Because I know some of this is just not quite ready. So Rubble's going to load in, and that's the first one. So we get a breakpoint. What do we got with this breakpoint? So I'm seeing we're in scene add a renderable, and the renderable has invalid bounds. And I go up my call stack to right here in the Rubble code, where it's saying update scene. And this is complete. So what we should do with this is most likely, so that's kind of happening asynchronously in the background. Like, we get the Rubble, and right here where we set the building cells here, that then kicks off a bunch of stuff running in the background to build meshes, and eventually it comes back and sets it on the screen. But the problem is that in here we've gotten it, like, we've set the networks, we get the initial network packet, and we do the state update here, and then we do the physics update here, and then eventually we get around to, but the problem is the very first time we've set the building cells, and then down here in then the physics update runs and we get a position. So I think the thing to do, and this is actually something I just earlier today, I split off network init from network update, so kind of migrating this stuff to separate things. So what I'm going to do here is, in this network update physics, where if there wasn't an old last physics state, I'm just going to rip that out and put it into network init and run it before we do the state. And then change this to an assert cast. And there. So we get the that network state needs to deconstruct this other network state, and I'm going to make some changes to that. I'm not super happy on that. And then I'm going to call this update renderable call to set the position correctly. So let's see, I think that's good enough for now. This definitely needs a little bit of refactor and improvement, but that should get us to start up without having weird errors. So let's start the client up again and see if we can do this without it. Yeah. So starting up the client, doing a rebuild, and it'll start real quickly. Tunes. This is Aria of Vernal Tombs by a band called Obsequiae. I will post their link in Bandcamp. I am a fan. Here we go. This is my tunes. Alright. So we started up with no assertions and no bugs or anything. The biggest thing is that the Rubble is clearly not in the same places. So we got some sync problems, but it's still gonna be pretty cool. Yeah, speaking of, no, I am not a VS Code person. I really like my big heavyweight IDE with, you know, all my visual assist and the debugger built into it. So JB, on the other hand, lives for VS Code. So everyone's got like their own preferred tools. So yeah, that happened. That's cool. Oh, and so in Cube, the physics did not actually work, but when it was all like standalone on the client, but when it's connected to the server, the physics are, yeah, the server's doing the physics. This is kind of funny because, like, on the client, I'm not really, I just stop when I run into Rubble, and the server's the one that's actually, like, you know, changing things. So you can see, like, you know, my queued stuff, and it's not finishing the building because, you know, it's all broken, or it's not connected. But I bet if I delete this cell right here, so let the construction queue run, it's going to pop that out, and then this chunk's going to fall down. Yep. Cool. So what happens to Rubble that falls outside the plot area? Then there is Rubble that's lying on the ground outside the plot area. And, you know, I think if you watch the update stream just now, you know, Ben actually dealt with that, and we talked about, you know, that Rubble on the ground still needs to be damageable, needs to be destructible. So that, you know, chunks, you don't end up with chunks blocking things. And also, we want Rubble to be harvestable resources, so that regardless of your faction, you can run up and, you know, get building materials out of the thing you knocked off the castle. So that's, there's one horrible thing I need to go over here and do, because I have no idea what's going to happen when I do this, but I'm going to do it. This is very untested code right now. Let's see what it does if I actually shoot the Rubble with the Scorpion. It moved it. Let's go, let's get off the Scorpion and go see what happened. Neat. Okay, so I think the big test that everyone's going to want to see here. Ah! Busted. Actually, so what that looks like, renderable has invalid bounds. Looks like something fell out of the world entirely. Because you look at the Z coordinate and it's hugely negative. So, not sure what happened there. I'm gonna look for that, but that's not like just invalid. That's something. Something probably got knocked all the way over this hill here, and then there's no world beyond that if you go far enough. So, yay, giant explosions. But I think the thing that everyone's gonna want to see before I commit this to hatchery, right, Tim? We're gonna push this to hatchery right now. Oh, no one can stop me.
You're the adult now.
Alright, so I made a building plot. Set it to my faction. Take it over. And then plop down a nice big keep on it. Look at that keep. Is that actually... You know what? Let's do it over here. I think this might be a more fun one. Look at that keep. Is that not a beautiful keep? Rob's all motley keep. And now I'm going to turn it into Tuatha keep because fuck them hibbies. I didn't say that. I did not say that. Here, let's start using this scorpion. And since that's a Tuatha keep, let's change the daytime a little bit. There we are. That's a nice time of day. Actually, let's pack this up. Move it a little, move it closer. Move it so we can fully appreciate. The very first keep to be destroyed in this game will be Tuatha Keep. Open my inventory, get that back out. So it's a little hard to see because it's such motley colors on this keep. Rob did that because he wanted to test a bunch of stuff on just like what is the performance when we have a massive assortment of different materials. It's kind of the worst case for the building. But you can see it's getting cracks in it. Look at all those cracks. It's coming. Oh, look at that hole. We've got a hole. This is actually the very, very first keep destruction test ever, anywhere in our game. You guys are witnessing this for the first time. So if it doesn't do something awesome, I apologize. I'm just kind of carving this thing apart. Oh! Well, that's an assertion coming out of the game server. So, look at that. So we're going to dive in and debug that. And it is related to the destruction of the building, so I goofed. We don't like it when the server asserts. Let's see, building cells component. Let's get entity updater. Oh, yes, I should use the letter U. Wrong variable. Alright, everyone at City State, yes, this is the thing I get on everyone about and yell at people about, and I made that mistake myself. That's why I yell at people about that mistake. You all get to laugh. Yes, Andrew captured his parent updater in a closure. Oh yeah, I did it down here too. Okay. So, let's, yep, so, right here, yeah, updater.schedule action, and I got an updater for the new action, and, you know, I was using the old updater instead of, you know, the inner updater. So to ask, Silent Bob, I did work on Dark Age of Camelot a little bit. I was not one of the original developers. During the original development, I was at a series of Southern California companies, and did Myth 3, and then at Troika Games on Temple of Elemental Evil and Vampire the Masquerade. So I came to Mythic, life happened, and I really just wanted to move back to the East Coast for various reasons, and I was like, so I went around GDC and I stalked. Like, I actively stalked the Mythic guys. Like, I was like, you know, I want to get a job at this Mythic place because that's, like, DC area is kind of where I want to go. And, you know, I was like, huh, alright, here's a GDC roundtable. I bet some of the Mythic guys will be on there. And, you know, tracked them down there and, you know, said nice things until I convinced them to hire me. And here we are. So I did some work on starting with the Catacombs expansion, and then I eventually rolled into lead client engineer on Warhammer. Then EA turned it into a not very awesome place to work, and I went to Bethesda, and then hooked back up with Mark once, you know, once Mark was allowed to compete, allowed to work on games, he got like a non-compete in his severance, and then it ended, and we started a new party. So, waiting for that. Yeah. So Tobor, you take it you were a fan of Myth. That's like one of the things that I really want to capture from that series is just like the chaos of the Myth series, like the very, very emergent chaos. I think is something that needs to be part of MMOs. Now, Myth, as distinct from anything from Mythic. Myth was Bungie's game before Halo. But just, all of this stuff about building destruction, it's that those key moments in the Myth series when, like a dwarven satchel charge would do something incredibly stupid, but awesome. And yeah, so we're gonna servers back online, gonna start up the client, but it's the kind of thing where, like, you need things to happen in a really emergent way to keep the game fresh. Otherwise, it's just, I attack you, I do more DPS than you, and therefore you die. Consistently 100% of the time, that's not interesting. On the other hand, well, the random number generator, I'm better than you and I have more stats than you, but the random number generator just decided that I lose to you. That's also not cool. But bringing in physics, making spells interact with each other, causing interactions between things that dynamically change the world, that's kind of where the magic happens, because that is where, unique things happen every time you play, but they are things that you look at and say, yeah, that happened for a reason. I didn't, just get cheesed by RNG. So, oh man, I make another plot that is actually outside the bounds. Okay. And then turn that into a keep. Alright, we're right up on this keep now this time, so have an excellent view. Oh, I have to actually set this to a TDD keep so I can destroy it. So I'm just going to keep shooting this, and something awesome is going to happen. Or, maybe the server will... Yes, Tobor, that is exactly the idea. So that you can use things in the world to cause, a chain of stuff together. That, there will be things you have to react to. It will not be the same, and everyone will have a chance. Not necessarily a good chance, but a chance. Alright, so one of the interesting things as we've implemented more stats, you notice some of the building blocks have gotten carved out faster than others, and that's because different materials have different hit points now. So let's just continue to destroy. And eventually... Oh, I saw a block fall. Did you see that block fall? Oh, there's another one. Eventually there's going to be a big chunk that falls off. Look at those! Look at those! That's amazing. Come on, zoom in. Don't be a butt. There. It's coming. Yeah, but Tim says, now you're just making a mess. But I'm making a mess of the Tuatha Keep. Oh, that's so close. That one side piece, it's about to come off. Oh, so close. Yeah, I need to just add a damage scaler that I can tweak. I'm going to ignore you. This should have fallen by now. It really should have fallen by now. Alright. Really annoyed that this highlight is here. You can barely see. Oh, it fell too fast. Maybe not quite as tight, but then this is like super debug version of the server, so it's lagtastic. But I am having fun. Are you having fun? Ignore that. Boing. Oh, that thing should come right off now. So, okay, it hangs in the air like Wile E. Coyote time, which maybe is not ideal. And then it falls, but that's so we got to get the latency, we got to tighten up the lag on that. But yeah. Hold on 1 second. Hey Rob, is there a slash command to just make all cooldowns instantaneous? I'm getting Rob to tell me where to no cooldowns. Yeah, that one. Yeah, look at that. Look at all the things that I can do to my game. Yep. All right. So, yeah, cooldown's disabled. Of course, that doesn't set the prep time to 0, so I can't just spam it quite as fast as I'd like. What happens if I do this? It doesn't shoot the bolts. I'll figure out why later. Alright, so yeah, on the subject of Acme grade physics, we're having a really good conversation in the office, towards the end of the day about how, like the actual physics of big objects crashing to the ground and all, like they are not at all what people expect. We're very, very conditioned by Hollywood, and we have expectations of how physics works for things that are like not at human scale. I take this pin and, I drop the pin, and we all have an expectation of how that pin is going to fall. But at the same time, our intuitive sense of how a building falls is not sane. Like, just super simple example. How much do you think, if one of these blocks was actually made of wood, or, if one of those blocks was actually made of stone, what do you think one of those blocks would weigh? And it's like 600 kilograms. Like, you cannot possibly lift that. You cannot carry it. All the physics that, you would associate with it are insane. And so significant liberties are taken, and we are going to absolutely be tweaking the physics to be a different thing than, what anyone, we're going to tweak the physics for fun, not, realism. It's going to be fun, it's going to be awesome, it's going to fall and bounce in ways that you expect, and it's going to seem right because it's wrong. So I'm going to do one last I don't know, I'm feeling chaotic. Maybe I'll just commit this and see what happens. Hey Tim, what zone is Hatchery currently running? Because what would be really cool would be if we set Hatchery to a zone that allowed open building by all factions. Yeah, let's set to the contested map. And so, by the way, Scorpions obviously do interesting things to buildings. It takes quite a bit more time, but oh, gotta shoot something with an AoE. Yeah, that's like, say, affix explosives. That'll mess up some buildings if you shoot it enough. Oh, right. It was BlizzCon today. I've got, like, a really, really good friend who was a finalist in the cosplay contest, so I need to see how that has gone for her. I'm not sure when they had the contest. But totally going to see. Should probably Instagrammed it. So she's not going to be on until 8:45 Eastern tonight, 5:45 p.m. So she's got time. And I wish her the best of luck. Alright. Oh my god. Okay, that's the man with no screen name. That is a timeout. No more puns for 5 minutes. You're in pun timeout. So bad. Alright, so Tim has is flipping hatchery over to the contested island, which means you will be able to build and destroy on that. And there's going to be a whole bunch of bugs with, the rubble on your client ends up in a different place from the rubble on someone else's client. Ah, this thing's beautiful. Okay, so right now the rubble may be a little bit light. But still, I think people on hatchery might do something really interesting with this bug over the weekend. So, oh wait, did it just fall into the water and drown? I think rubble drowns. Oh no. Alright. Yeah, I'm going to squish this up and I'm going to shove it on hatchery and it'll probably be there in about 20 minutes. And I want to see what you guys do. Yeah, so the idea is that the rubble gets set to really light when it's actually falling through the world, so that it'll bounce off of each other and all, and then like once it comes to rest in the world, it will gain its actual proper mass. But yeah, apparently that's not working the way we would like it to work. Oh, wait, no, it just reset here, so there was some yeah, the physics are exciting with that. Oh, never mind. It was I chased it into the portal. This test zone has a portal in it. See, now I can't play with my soccer ball anymore because I'll drown. Alright, yeah, I'm going to squish this together and post it, even though it's really broken, and I promise everyone else in the office I will roll it back first thing Monday, or fix the bugs over the weekend, one or the other. And guys, everyone, you are very welcome to roll this change back on your own branches or do whatever, but this is too much fun to not put on master over the weekend. So I quit out of the client and do my thing. Let's see. This is source tree, everyone's favorite UI front end for Git. So first thing I want to do is search for places where I've disabled optimizations. Don't actually push places where I turned optimizations off. And then save all of that. Search the server, make sure I didn't do anything there. And then I'm going to do a series of janky things in source control. So here's master. First thing I'm going to do is just commit all of my local changes blindly. And push that up to my branch. Alright, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to force push my branch. No one else is working on this branch. And then go over to... I'm gonna go back here and just squash it down to a single commit by resetting my branch, and then so here's just all the changes from master in that are in my Rubble branch, and commit that into one squash of so I'm gonna commit that as a single commit, and then go over to master, pull latest master, rebase on top of master. Check out Rubble. Rebase that onto master. And this is going to be such a messy commit history, but I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah. I'm going to cherry pick this into master, and alright, Tim, you ready? Balls of steel! 6:30 on a Friday is the perfect time to just force push a large squashed commit that no one else has reviewed. I am going to be on all the on-calls this weekend, and I accept that, and I think it is worth it. So, yeah. What are you laughing so hard about, Tim? Are you laughing at something related to what I did? Yeah, so this is Jenkins. This is our build server. It's a just open source build server that runs and you know, watches Git for changes and makes builds and pushes them out to the patcher. And it's going to do its thing, and in about 20 minutes, either you know, and I mentioned how the server is like broken up into a whole bunch of separate, is built out of a whole bunch of libraries. It builds each of those individually, and like a little executable that pulls that library in as standalone things. So you see lots of projects here, like, you know, this one's building a math DLL. This one's building yeah, so many projects. It's going to build a new client and a new server and deploy them in sync with one another. So let's see, that right there is that's building the physics server. That's building the client. This is actually going to turn out to be a really huge rebuild because there's like one minor change to the core math library header in there. You know, I just like, you know, will randomly be like, yeah, I think the math, oh yeah, it needed, I got annoyed that our vector of 3 doubles and our vector of 3 floats didn't like automatically convert to each other, so I added that. But that means everything that was using the math library gets recompiled, because why not? Alright, so client compiled. Like at this point, I'm really just hanging out because I want to make sure this actually makes it onto Hatchery, and Hatchery doesn't crash on startup. And as long as we get to that, there's going to be a whole bunch of assertions and warnings and stuff that you're going to see from this code, but just click ignore always, and it'll probably work. It's Hatchery. It is where the eggs go to be broken. And I am hearing people setting up a real test on either Nuada or Nuada Prep over the weekend. Yeah, so real test of...
Probably. I'm getting less confirmation.
That will wait for the testing document to actually get confirmation. Or, you know, the weekly wrap-up email will cover that. That's terrible. That was so bad. That was I'm in awe. Hey look, it's the weekly update, and yeah, okay, Tim says there will be an unstable build test tomorrow for betas. Beta 1, and that is on Nuada Prep, and that does not include this, and Hatchery is going to be just completely screwed because I pushed this code to it. This is like reckless for me. Yeah, this is not my typical. What? Yeah, no, I did a search for that. Alright, build failed because I did not take a debug macro out. And you're not allowed to push things up. Unless you get... Come on, Visual Studio. Come on. Okay. Oh, sweet. Sweet. We got, yeah. New PCs are in the mail. I'm slightly distracted by, negotiating where I'm ordering, what I'm ordering on the pizza for dinner with my wife. So, anyway, Visual Studio has caught up to this. Alright, pushing a new commit up to Origin Master, and Jenkins will pick it up in before too much longer. Alright. So here we go. Run the build again. It's going to be a much shorter build because a lot of stuff that, you know, I didn't change the core math library header this time. Int and whiz, man. Humble Pants, int and whiz. I just, yeah, so my new example, my new go-to example of high int, low whiz, it's not like Absent-Minded Professor or any of that. It is a raccoon. Raccoons. They have, like, dex of 20, int of 16, whiz of 3. Yeah, sorry. The D&D character sheet just is like assumed context. Like, okay, so like raccoons are incredibly competent. They are so super competent, and yet they can manipulate things, they can solve problems, and they're completely stupid about what things they should not do. Like, they are too clever for their own good. They can figure out how to get into a thing that will completely trap them, or... yeah. Building, building, building. There goes the client done. Gotta build. Yeah, now I gotta build an editor. The build does not go through unless everything goes through. So. Alright, editor's built. Alright, now. Come on, I want to see hatchery. Oh, post black, do we? Tell me more, hallucinati. I'm very hit or miss on some post black. Like some of my favorite and least favorite. Trivium, I don't dislike Trivium. What's this actually doing? This. I would have expected this build to be making progress faster than it has. It's only been executing for like 6 minutes. What is going on here? Oh, yeah, that finally moved forward. Build the chat server. Build the tools. Build the proxies. Build the physics server. Build all the things. Amon Amarth is a little more, actually, I'm not sure. Amon Amarth might be, like, in this weird, crack between, like, too much death vocals for, Ben and Dave and, like, not... and too and too, like, not avant-garde weird enough for me. I've been to a bunch of Amon Amarth shows, like, especially, there was one where Enslaved was opening for them, and that was a hell of a good show. Like, I'll always go see Amon Amarth live, not because it's just, you know, they're great showmen. But yeah, let's be honest, they've put out the same album 5 times, so it's not necessarily what I will listen to. But when they come through town, hell yeah. You can see all the pieces of this game going by. There's a crash reporter. It logs all the crashes. Server controller that sits there and, like, you know, actually is like a web interface to turn servers on and off and set their properties. Building the web API independently of the game server. This normally just happens. This normally just happens in the background. We don't normally sit here waiting and waiting. It's just, I don't want to leave until I see it actually work. It's very, very bad form to, like, go home and to push a change and then go home without knowing that the build worked. That's what. So normally people do not do a commit and then immediately walk out the door. See, more pieces. The present server, that's one where it's just a server that tracks which other server you're logged into. So it's, multiple game servers, multiple shards, multiple zones, and it's just like, send a thing to this player, and it kind of routes that. Progression server, so as you're playing the game, we just generate database entries to, I killed Rob, or Rob killed me, and that all goes into a log. And then the progression server is sitting there, kind of asynchronously pulls all those records, and does a batch, like, once a day or whenever, and the king has decided to award you for stuff. NPC server controls NPC behavior. Self-explanatory what that is. It's a C# program that does behavior tree type things. So that's what's building there. So many parts. And finally, we have begun the again, the copy of all the files. So here's all the bits of the UI. If we've made it to this point, the build itself has succeeded. It's just about moving all the various parts to the right places. Odilvik, I think the only way we can know that is if we try it. Uploading the shaders. Alright, so last little bit, this is the thing that sends all of the executables over to a very, very physically isolated box that all it does is code signing, so it's like super secure. They went home 'cause it's 7 o'clock here. Rob and Tim and Tyler are still over there, and you know, we got you can see Seattle. There's still some people in Seattle working. So we're just about done. And the build is signed. You can see the actual upload process. There's everybody's build process involves a certain amount of duct tape. It's one of those things that you generally get as good as it takes to actually work. So yeah, bunch of DOS batch files running robocopy, like it's 1988. Let's find out how long robocopy has been around. I'm googling this. There's a Wikipedia article on it. Part of the So initially available as an add-on in Windows NT 4, first introduced as a standard feature in Vista. So yeah, now you know. Let's see. Link, it's getting better. It's still definitely not at a 24/7 playable world stage as opposed to scenarios. If you have beta 1 access, there'll be a scenario test this weekend. So check your email for that. And the big thing that just we're building forward, or the destruction of buildings. Yeah. And my patcher just got an update. Look at that. Yeah, if we're gonna jump on hatchery. I'm not sure. This is not yet up yet. Should be the contested zone, because that allows all three factions to build on it, and
No, I just don't know that is what the last I checked.
yeah. Tim said he was changing the zone.
Yeah, I'm gonna send the testing email out.
Oh wow! Thank you very much, Link. You were the one keeping me in pizza and Mountain Dew while I work on this. Let's see. Not sure if it's fully deployed yet or not. The new client's up there. Yeah, just checking with Tim on state of the deployment. We're gonna have to see hatchery go down and come back up again before the actual server. it started raining like crazy while I was sitting here being on a stream. Come on, come on. I want to go home. I want to eat pizza and see my wife. Yay. Yeah, so Zadrid, there's a forum post with a super high res version of that video, and you know, sort of that code is on its way to Hatchery right now.
Testing emails out. 12 to 3 tomorrow, EDT.
And testing, you guys should have an email in your inbox momentarily that's going to explain testing for the weekend. Official testing is an unstable build on New Auto Prep from 12 to 3 Eastern. The hatchery will just have all the chaos that I have just inflicted on it up all weekend except when it crashes. I've promised no more than that. Everyone see Tyler? Say hi to Tyler.
Say bye to Tyler, yeah.
Tyler's going away.
Yeah, I sent the update out earlier with lots of cool stuff, pictures of it. You guys, for those of you who don't read it, you should check it out. What? Hi. He's waving to me.
Yeah. Now it's Inception.
Yeah, well, if he turns in now, you can watch yourself watch us.
Yeah. No one can actually hear this because it's just my mic. We're all just kind of screwing around. Yeah. So what I was saying is, can you hear me? I just switched the mic to use the camera mic so you could pick up Tim and Tyler's smartass comments in the background. But but I switched back to my headset. Hear this? I hope you can hear this. Okay, it's up. Let's see how badly broken this is. So actually, I did announce an official date for Beta 2 while the mic was off, but I don't like repeating myself, so you'll just have to keep guessing. Alright. Could not find a server. Are we sure it's back up? Tim says, Web API is rebooting now. I'll just wait for the Web API. We definitely need to take a pass through this and figure out ways to make it run more in parallel, though. Yeah, it's...
I've been wanting to do that for a long, long while.
Looks like hatchery upload is actually done. So... just go over here and see what bad ideas I can get into. Drop a plot. Make it my faction. Take it over. Go into building mode. Build a thing. And this is on hatchery right now, so y'all are welcome to come up and watch this with me if you want.
Building plan is still there. I removed like one block out of it. So like if you just let it build and then chunk the middle out.
Yeah. So, pro tip, if you just knock out the bottom of a perfect column, that's going to, it'll just fall straight down. So you gotta build a little thing like this onto the side so it's a bit unstable, so that the center of gravity is a little off to the side. Then Not quite. Yep.
Good. Now it really is
Yeah. So who wants to play some soccer with me? All right. So I know for a fact that that there are that like it's not syncing the positions of blocks correctly between the two servers or between clients. Like, so this might be in a different position on my client than yours. So, I might log out and log back in, and this won't be where I left it. But I think this is going to be a very entertaining thing to leave. Yes, Tim.
versus where it is on yours.
Yeah, it's in a completely different place for me versus Tim. So, known bug, but I still think this is going to be fun for people to play with over the weekend. And, with that, I will see you later.